Okay, this one is about our greatest hero of the Revolutionary War, and therefore of all wars that the United States has fought in. If it weren't for this single individual, there would be no United States, and there is no doubt about that. Fuck, I hate allergies. So this guy, he comes from a rich family in France, right? And his father dies very young. And at 13 years old, he joins the King's Black Musketeers. What are they? Those are the guys who were immortalized by the Three Musketeers. Um, the Three Musketeers. Yeah, that's the guys. So he was not going to gain anything from our revolution, but he gave up a life of privilege, sort of, as we'll see later on in his life. He was one of the few people in the French Revolution that was spared, and that's because of him taking part in the American Revolution. He was the youngest major general in American history at 19 years old. You know how he started his very first command? Brandywine Creek. What's that famous for? A retreat. He was begging to go into battle, and they finally let him run in there as his troops are running backwards. He was able to organize an orderly retreat, and he got shot in the leg. That is how he started off being a general in the United States. And he only got better from there. He is also arguably the most productive general in our history. We like to give a lot of credit to Benjamin Franklin for a lot of the stuff that happened. Well, yes and no. See, if it wasn't for the recommendation of Benjamin Franklin, then Silas Deane would have never taken a look at the young man. Certainly wouldn't have written the letter of recommendation that he did. Now, the Marquis de Lafayette, the thing about that is that all happened because of Benjamin Franklin. But there's a lot of things later on in the war that Benjamin Franklin gets credit for, like convincing the French monarchy to come to America's aid, when truly that was the Marquis de Lafayette. The reason that I say all of this is because what is it that made this a country? Was it the Declaration of Independence? Was it the Constitution? Actually, no, it was the people who fought and died for those ideals. They still had to win the war. If they don't win the war, we remain British colonies. We needed help, we needed friends. French didn't even speak our language. The British did. And who was it that came to our aid? Was it our own? I mean, here in this scenario, the British, they've ruled us for years. We speak the same language as them. Aren't they our people? No. No, our people are the ones who came through when we were in a bind. Our people were foreign people. Our people were French people. Native Americans as well fought on America's side. Black folks fought on America's side. We even had Germans fighting on our side. The Revolutionary War was pretty dirty by American standards. British, heck, they looked at us the same way that the The Romans look at those nasty Bertonculi. Train. So I'm gonna post y'all up something from history. This is one of my favorites here. It kind of explains why it is that the Marquis de Lafayette was so instrumental in winning the war. Repeatedly outnumbered, and even occasionally cornered, this man pulled off some miracles. There it is over in the live chat on the right-hand side. The Marquis de Lafayette. He really was something. He was able to do things and get his soldiers to do things that men twice his age with twice his experience couldn't do. He was able to see opportunities where other people didn't. He was able to seize opportunities when they needed to be seized. And he was able to get people to listen. He had a lot of charisma. He also, we like to pretend that he came over here with no experience. No, he had military training from when he was 13 years old. He joined the Black Musketeers. They had an intense training regimen, and it was important for you to be able to keep up with that. For a 13-year-old to keep up with grown men, I mean, that's something that really needs to be looked at. The fact that there was a lot of strife at the time, a lot of wars, and a lot of scuffles with the British. So he wasn't untested when he came over here, like they try to say. But the other thing is, when you look at the readouts, they absolutely had to take the readouts before they could, and you'll learn about those if you watch the video. If those weren't taken, then Cornwallis could have held out a bit longer. But without those, he realized he was done. Whose idea was it to take the readouts? Well, that was of course the Marquis de Lafayette. And who was it that kept Cornwallis busy going all through the woods all up there in Carolinas and Virginia and places like that? That was the Marquis de Lafayette. Cornwallis was more interested in getting the Marquis de Lafayette than he was at winning the war at that point in time. He got stupid. He got narrow-minded and tunnel-visioned, and that's something we're dealing with a lot today, with a lot of people in positions of power, where they've gotten used to getting away with things for a lot of years. Now they want it to stay that way. They want it to stay where the rules are different for them than they are for others. The British wanted the rules for us to be different than the rules for them, so we whooped their ass, but we had help. Throughout history, it turns out that although people are capable of being reasonable, governments are not. Rich people are not capable of being reasonable. Especially when your life means nothing to them because they don't know you, they don't know your name, they don't know your story. They don't know what you had for dinner last night for certain. They just don't care. Oh, a war? All right, I need 2,800 bodies at least so that we can get people over there. And then I need 130,000 other bodies. The reason that I say bodies is because it really doesn't matter if they end up live or dead at the end of it to these people. But it matters to you because those bodies are your brothers and sisters, husbands, wives, dads, moms. Then you look at what they're fighting for, what they're supposedly fighting for, and you see how much of that we have here. And you go, well, we aren't living in this utopian society that we're all pretending. Except we're not all pretending. Those of us at the bottom don't have that luxury. We don't have the luxury to pretend. And we're trying to get you guys who don't have to go through it to understand that we are doing our best, but we are being killed at an alarming rate. And you guys just don't seem to see it. You don't seem to care. You don't seem to notice. I mean, we had that officer, Roland Lolatai, who was accused of, well, the 3 situations where he got in trouble for being racist. He did that same exact thing to 4 other homeless people that very same year who were white. And Waylon Lolatai is darker than literally every single one of those people, including the 3 that he was accused of being racist. If they would have arrested him when he assaulted me, instead of the police working together to try to force a situation where they could pretend, and they had to not have their body cameras allowed in court in order for that to work. As soon as I started requisitioning for their body cams, they dropped the charges. Big difference between body cams and the cameras that are in the hospitals. So you look at the ones in the hospitals, they get to put their own narrative with it because you can't hear the sound. You don't get to hear the sound on the ambulance ride. You don't get to hear the sound on the ride to the hospital. You don't get to hear the sound on the ride from the hospital to the jail.